Margaret is 92 years old, and you'd never guess it. Every morning, she stretches her legs, takes a brisk walk around her garden, and enjoys her day without the dreaded leg cramps that used to keep her up at night. But it wasn't always like this. A few years ago, she struggled with painful cramps that woke her up in agony. Then, she discovered 4 simple secrets that changed everything. Want to know what they are? Let's start with the first one. This one might surprise you. 1. The hydration trick. No one talks about it. Was 2 a.m. when Margaret bolted upright, her calf muscles twisting in a sharp, painful grip. The searing discomfort shot through her leg, and her instinct was to clutch her muscle, trying to knead it into submission. But despite her best efforts, the cramp refused to loosen its hold. The more she tried to stretch, the tighter the muscles seemed to get. This wasn't the first time, though. In fact, this exact scene had played out night after night, and it was starting to wear her down. Margaret had tried everything: bananas, stretching exercises, soaking in warm baths, and even massaging the muscles, but nothing seemed to make a lasting difference. Each night felt like a battle, one she never seemed to win. Frustration was beginning to take hold. She found herself questioning if she would ever sleep through the night without the agony of those awful cramps. So one morning, she mentioned it to her doctor during a routine checkup, fully expecting the usual advice. Perhaps she needed to stretch more, or her potassium levels were low. Simple fixes she had already tried. But her doctor surprised her with a different approach. He asked a question that caught her off guard. "How much water are you drinking?" Margaret paused, unsure of the answer. "Well, I drink tea in the morning, some juice during the day, and I make sure to have a few glasses of water," she replied. It seemed like enough to her, but the doctor's response was gentle but firm. Most seniors are dehydrated and don't even realize it, and dehydration is one of the biggest causes of leg cramps. She blinked, processing this new piece of information. Could dehydration really be the culprit? She had never considered it. After all, she had always assumed that as long as she drank fluids, she'd be fine. But then, the doctor added something even more surprising. Water alone isn't enough. The way he said it made Margaret sit up a little straighter in her chair. It wasn't just about drinking fluids. It was about the balance of electrolytes. The body needs sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which work in harmony to help muscles function properly. Without these essential minerals, hydration can be ineffective, and the muscles will still seize up. Margaret was intrigued but skeptical. Was it really that simple? The doctor explained that without these electrolytes, water couldn't properly hydrate the body, and muscles would be left vulnerable to cramps, especially during sleep. Margaret left the appointment with more questions than answers, but she was determined to give this idea a try. What did she have to lose? The first thing Margaret did was adjust her morning routine. She began her days with an electrolyte-rich drink: 1 glass of water, a pinch of sea salt, and a squeeze of fresh lemon. The sea salt helped her body retain the water she drank, while the lemon provided potassium, a crucial mineral for muscle relaxation. At first, the idea of adding salt to her water felt odd, but the benefits were clear from the start. Her body felt more balanced, and she noticed that she wasn't as thirsty throughout the day. Next, Margaret took a closer look at her diet. She had always focused on eating balanced meals, but she hadn't been as mindful about hydration from food. Instead of reaching for dry snacks, like crackers and chips, she started including more water-rich foods in her meals: cucumber, watermelon, oranges. These foods not only helped hydrate her body, but also replenished important minerals, including magnesium and potassium. By choosing foods that were naturally hydrating, Margaret felt like she was giving her muscles the nourishment they needed to stay relaxed. Lastly, Margaret realized that her approach to drinking water could be part of the problem. Instead of chugging large amounts of water at once, she began sipping small amounts throughout the day. She kept a water bottle with her at all times, taking frequent sips to keep her hydration levels steady. This helped maintain a constant supply of fluid to her body without overwhelming it all at once, allowing her to stay better hydrated throughout the day. Within just a few days of these changes, Margaret noticed something remarkable. The tightness in her legs, which had plagued her for months, began to ease. She no longer felt the persistent discomfort that usually built up throughout the day, and most surprisingly, she began sleeping through the night without waking up in pain. The cramps had disappeared. For the first time in a long while, Margaret felt truly rested. Her body no longer felt like it was fighting against her while she slept. She had solved the mystery of her cramps, and the solution was simpler than she ever imagined. It wasn't about fancy supplements or complex routines. It was about giving her body the right balance of hydration and electrolytes it needed to stay healthy. As she reflected on the journey, Margaret couldn't help but be amazed by how something so simple had made such a huge difference. She had spent so much time searching for the right remedy, but it turned out that the key to relieving her cramps had been a small change in how she approached hydration. Sometimes it's the smallest adjustments that can make the biggest impact. For Margaret, drinking water with electrolytes, eating hydrating foods, and sipping consistently throughout the day had finally allowed her body to function properly. The relief was almost immediate, and now, when she lies down to sleep at night, she knows she's done everything she can to ensure a cramp-free, restful night's sleep. If you've been struggling with leg cramps, it might be time to reconsider how you're hydrating. Could it be that simple? Try Margaret's approach. Add some electrolytes to your water, focus on hydrating foods, and sip throughout the day, and you might just find the relief you've been looking for. 2. The stretching sequence that works instantly. Margaret had just finished a lovely dinner with her daughter, enjoying their usual heartwarming conversation over a cup of chamomile tea. The evening had been perfect: good food, laughter, and the comforting presence of family. Feeling pleasantly tired, she climbed into bed, pulled up the covers, and let out a satisfied sigh. But just as she was drifting into sleep, bam! A sharp, searing pain tore through her calf. She gasped and shot upright, her hands clutching at her leg. The muscle had locked up like a vice, refusing to release no matter how hard she tried to massage it out. She winced as she attempted to stretch, but the pain only intensified. These cramps had become an unwelcome part of her nights, stealing her rest and leaving her exhausted the next day. She had tried everything: drinking more water, eating bananas, even soaking in warm baths before bed. But nothing seemed to prevent these sudden attacks. Frustrated and desperate for relief, she mentioned it to her physical therapist at her next session. She expected the usual advice, but instead, her therapist smiled knowingly and said, "Most people stretch after they get a cramp, but the real secret is stretching before bed, preventative stretching." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Before bed?" Her therapist nodded. "It's like oiling a stiff hinge before it creaks. Stretching before you sleep keeps your muscles relaxed and your circulation flowing, making nighttime cramps much less likely." Skeptical but willing to try anything, Margaret followed a simple 2-minute routine her therapist gave her. She did it every night before climbing into bed, and what happened next amazed her. The first exercise was a toe point and flex. Sitting on the edge of her bed, she pointed her toes forward as far as they could go, then flexed them back toward her body. She repeated this motion 10 times, feeling a gentle pull along her calves and feet. Next was the wall calf stretch. She stood up, placed her hands flat against the wall, and stepped one foot back, pressing her heel into the floor. At first, She felt a strong pull, but after holding it for 30 seconds on each leg, she noticed her muscles loosening. Finally, she did the seated hamstring stretch. Sitting back down, she extended one leg straight out and slowly reached toward her toes, holding the position for 20 seconds before switching sides. She had never realized how tight her hamstrings were until she felt the stretch radiate through the back of her legs. At first, the routine felt simple, almost too easy. But after just a few nights, something remarkable happened. Margaret slept straight through until morning. No more 2 a.m. wake-ups. No more clutching her leg in agony. Her muscles felt looser, and for the first time in months, she woke up feeling truly rested. One small change made all the difference. And now, she swears by these stretches every night. So if leg cramps have been keeping you up, try this routine before bed. You might just wake up feeling better than you have in years. 3. The magic mineral that stops cramps. Cold Margaret was growing frustrated. She had increased her water intake, stretched every evening, and even adjusted her diet. Yet the cramps continued to strike. It didn't make sense. She was doing everything right. Or so she thought. One afternoon, while chatting with her friend Linda over tea, she mentioned her struggle. Linda leaned in with a knowing look. "Have you tried magnesium?" she asked. Margaret shook her head. She had heard of magnesium before, but never thought much about it. Linda explained that magnesium is one of the most important minerals for muscle relaxation, nerve function, and sleep. Without enough of it, muscles contract and spasm, and that's when cramps hit, she said. The problem is, as we age, our magnesium levels drop, and most people don't even realize they're deficient. Margaret was intrigued. Could this really be the missing link? Determined to give it a try, she made a few simple changes. First, she focused on adding magnesium-rich foods to her meals. She swapped out her usual toast for a small bowl of oatmeal topped with almonds and pumpkin seeds. For lunch, she added spinach to her salad and a few slices of avocado on the side. These small additions were packed with magnesium, helping to restore her body's natural balance. But she didn't stop there. Her doctor recommended a magnesium supplement, specifically magnesium glycinate, a form that's gentle on digestion and easily absorbed. She started taking it before bed, hoping it might not only ease her cramps, but improve her sleep as well. Then she tried something she had never considered before, magnesium lotion. She rubbed it onto her legs each night before climbing into bed, letting the mineral absorb directly through her skin. It felt soothing, and within days, she noticed a difference. Her legs felt lighter, the tightness eased, and best of all, the cramps that had haunted her nights were gone. She had spent months searching for a solution, only to realize that something as simple as replenishing her magnesium levels made all the difference. If you've been battling leg cramps and nothing seems to work, magnesium might be the missing piece. It certainly was for Margaret. 4. The sleeping mistake that makes cramps worse. Margaret thought she had solved the mystery of her leg cramps. She had fixed her hydration, balanced her electrolytes, and stretched every evening before bed. Most nights, she slept soundly, but every now and then, without warning, she'd be jolted awake by that familiar, agonizing grip in her calf. It was frustrating. Why did the cramp still strike at random? What was she missing? One night, as she lay awake after a particularly painful episode, she started thinking through every little detail of her routine. She had done everything right, hadn't she? Then, as she shifted under the covers, she noticed something. Her feet were stretched out, toes pointing downward. It seemed natural, but as she paid closer attention, she realized something else. Every time she felt a cramp coming on, her feet were in that exact same position. Could this be the missing link? Determined to test her theory, Margaret decided to experiment. First, she placed a soft pillow under her calves to slightly elevate her feet. This small adjustment helped prevent her toes from pointing downward unconsciously during the night. It felt strange at first, but by the next morning, she noticed something remarkable. Her legs felt more relaxed than usual. Encouraged, she made another change. She stopped tucking in her blankets so tightly. For years, she had neatly secured the sheets at the foot of her bed, never realizing that this habit forced her feet into an unnatural position, keeping her calf muscles contracted for hours. That tension, she realized, could have been contributing to her nighttime cramps all along. Then she took one final step, something she had never considered before. She started wearing warm socks to bed. At first, it seemed unnecessary, but when she learned that cold muscles are more prone to cramping due to restricted blood flow, it all made sense. Keeping her feet warm improved circulation, allowing her muscles to stay loose and relax throughout the night. After just a few nights of making these small but powerful adjustments, the results were undeniable. Margaret slept peacefully. No more sudden, painful wake-ups. No more tossing and turning in discomfort. It was as if she had unlocked the final secret to preventing those dreaded nighttime cramps. Looking back, she couldn't believe how such a simple change had made such a profound impact. For years, she had been searching for answers, trying every remedy under the sun. But in the end, the solution had been right there all along, hidden in the way she slept. Could your sleeping position be the unseen cause of your leg cramps? If you've tried everything else and the pain still finds its way into your nights, this could be the one thing standing between you and truly restful sleep. Try it tonight, and you might wake up feeling better than you have in years. Margaret's journey was proof that sometimes the simplest changes lead to the most profound results. By making just a few tweaks, hydrating properly, stretching consistently, boosting magnesium, and adjusting her sleep position, she transformed her nights from restless agony to peaceful rest. 4 straightforward secrets, and the cramping disappeared. Now it's your turn to take control. You don't have to live with leg cramps any longer. Which of these steps will you try first? Drop a comment and share your experience. Let's make those painful leg cramps a thing of the past, once and for all.